Welcome back to Ask Allison. Here's today's question. In today's market, are therapists having to do more to get clients? Super juicy question. I'm going to answer it juicily, but first I want to thank Therapy Notes for sponsoring Ask Allison. I have talked about them for years and years. You probably know their features by heart, but what really sets them apart is that they genuinely care about your experience. It's not just about troubleshooting. They actively implement user-suggested features like their new AI notes and their automated client payments. Everyone at Therapy Notes believes in the product and they really want you to love it too. Plus, they're independently owned, which means no venture capital, no pressure to prioritize their investors over you. This independence allows them to keep their prices fair, to focus on innovation, to prioritize customer experience. With over 100,000 therapists already on board, they've proven you don't have to compromise success for quality. If you're ready to see for yourself, try Therapy Notes free for 2 months. Use the code ABUNDANT at therapynotes.com. So, to answer the question, in today's market, are therapists having to do more to get clients? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you started a practice even 2 years ago, it was a totally different experience. The economy is definitely playing a role, but the bigger impact is due to big therapy tech's influence. And I want y'all to understand this on a deeper level than you might currently. So I'm going to go on a bit of a rant about it. I promise it is answering the question, but there's some education first. I'm also not going to name any names of these companies because they're extremely litigious. And I'm not interested in a legal battle with people with endless cash. So think of the companies that are advertising on the huge podcasts you listen to. Also think about the companies that help you take insurance but pay you better per session than being paneled on the same insurance. Hopefully a few companies are coming to mind. Let's break down what's happening. Pre-COVID, the mental health world was comprised of agencies, group practices, and solo practices. I'm lumping things like the VA, university counseling centers, those kinds of things. Those are all agencies. So we all had our lanes for marketing. Like community mental health didn't have Psychology Today profiles for their therapists, right? Nor did the VA or the university counseling centers. That'd be super weird, right? So these tech companies, they hire therapists, and they are basically huge agencies. They provide some more autonomy and in some cases some more money than other agencies, but overall they function like an agency. And many are creating Psychology Today profiles for their therapists. So if you have your own practice and you work for one of these tech agencies part-time, you may have two profiles, one of which was created by a marketing team and is more likely to get referrals. We all know by now that tech companies continuously breach client confidentiality and they share client info to social media so they can retarget with ads, and they just pay a fine for that. These aren't run by people who can lose their license in the same way that if we did the same thing, we would be in hot water. If you're using Google Ads, for instance, to fill your practice, that's become really, really difficult. Google Ads work by each company or practice sets a price for what they're willing to pay to have someone click on their ad. That doesn't mean a client, just to click on the ad that takes them to their website. And then Google gives the spots to any search, gives the spots, at the top and on the sides. Those go to whoever's willing to pay most. So if you're willing to pay $50 for every person that clicks on your ad, you'd think that'd be shown to a fair amount of potential clients. But big therapy tech has really deep pockets and they're going to be happy to pay far more. So your ad's going to be shown to way fewer people. Insurance companies, this is another aside, a different kind of these big therapy tech companies. Insurance companies are only allowed to profit 15 to 20% from what we pay them for our premiums. And the 80 to 85% that remains is supposed to go to medical expenses. If not, they have to pay back money to the people who've paid premiums. This is called the medical loss ratio. However, as expected, the insurance companies found these loopholes. So they found that they can buy group practices, they can start other companies, they can pay those practices and companies more per session for the same 90834, 90837s that you might be doing over in your own private practice. They can pay them more per session, which is paying themselves more per session, and then pocket the excess because it's going to a medical expense. So that's a way that they're getting around the medical loss ratio so that they can pad their own pockets. And they can market each of the therapists in these group practices and these other businesses in the same exact way that you market your practice. So if we use the Psychology Today example, 2 years ago in your medium-sized city, you might have had 300 therapists listed. Well, now there are 3,000. So the chances of being found among 300 therapists is much greater than being found amongst 3,000. And these companies are huge. They're impersonal. They don't market niches. They don't have any sort of like, I see you, I hear you, I know you kind of a feel. But solo and small group practices have that in spades. So here's what I recommend to get clients in this economy, in this mental health care environment. You have to be so much more intentional with your marketing. You cannot half-ass it. That means you need a solid niche. You need consistent messaging of that niche in whatever marketing strategies you choose. You need to capitalize on what big therapy tech doesn't have, which is relationships. So for 10 years, I've been saying networking is as important as having a website. It matters more now than it ever has. As a culture, we're techier than we've ever been, but we're not going to beat Silicon Valley at its own game. So here's the plan. Have a niche. Choose up to 5 marketing strategies. One of them needs to be a great website that's super niched. Another has to be networking, not just meeting with someone once and checking that box, creating an actual relationship with referral partners. The other 3 marketing strategies to make up your 5 are at your discretion. We talk about a ton of options in the Abundance Party if you need help. Once you've selected your marketing strategies, you then have to do them consistently and you have to do them right. Again, you cannot half-ass it in 2025, not if you want a full practice. My students are getting clients in this tough market because they are implementing the best practices that I teach. If you need help with that, DM me the word party on social, or you can hit the show notes to join if you're listening to the podcast. Today's free worksheet is How to Not Hate Networking. In it, I teach you the steps to networking without the awkwardness or the salesiness. I take you through it step by step. You've got to know how to network in this market. So I'm going to step off my soapbox. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk with you later.